Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I always wanted to do that. Thank you all for joining us. I would like to start out this evening by acknowledging the presence of some of our elected officials with us tonight from the City Council President Carmela Mantello, representing District 1, Jim Gully, representing District 2, Kim Ash McPherson, and representing District 3, Sue Steele, representing District 4, Anasha Cummings, District 5, Ken Zalewski, and District 6, Eileen McDermott. We're also joined by this evening by my predecessor, former Mayor Lou Rosamilia. Did I miss anybody? We're also joined by my wife tonight, Amy Williams. That's embarrassing. So again, thank you for joining us. Just as a point of reference, this is an illustration of One Monument Square, back when steamboats plied the Hudson River and before it was known as Monument Square. And no, I do not have a personal recollection of that time. Tonight is another step forward, an important step forward, in the long process of redeveloping the site known as One Monument Square. It was 2 years ago that we came together to develop a shared vision for this central site, a process that engaged the community in meetings and discussions that spanned several days. The message was clear. You wanted access to the waterfront, you wanted public space, and you wanted a facade on River Street that paid homage to the architectural uniqueness of the surrounding business district. Over the past 2 years, we have been working with our partner, Hoboken Brownstone Company, and their design team to come up with a design that is true to that vision, while mindful of the significant challenges that this site presents. The design that we will present to you is more than just a building, however. It is also a significant advancement of our goal of opening up more of our waterfront for the enjoyment of our residents and visitors. It builds on our greatest physical asset, our waterfront. Over the past several years, we have taken advantage of our riverfront in ways that have been the envy of our neighbors. The boat launches, the parks and walkways, the new marina, the rebuilt seawall, the riverfront park, and plans for a new riverfront park with the redevelopment of the Taylor apartment site, as well as plans to create a walkway from Riverfront Park north to the boat launch on Ingalls Avenue. Like many other great riverfront cities, we recognize how our investment in our waterfront contributes to the quality of life of our residents, as well as attracting investment, increasing property values, and creating jobs. Our historical relationship with the Hudson River is not incidental. It is why this patch of land was settled. It generated the wealth that built this city. It is inseparable from our past. This project ensures that it is inseparable from our future as well. This will be more than a point of pride. It will be a legacy that we leave for those who will follow us. While a great many details remain to be worked out, this is the point on the horizon to which we are walking. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sumit Gupta from Hoboken Brownstone Company to begin the presentation. There will be ample time at the conclusion of the program for your questions. Again, thank you for coming out tonight.
I asked the mayor and the city officials if I could come out to the Chicago Bulls theme song, and they unanimously denied that. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Thank you guys all for coming out. This is obviously a very critical part of your downtown market, and it's an honor to be involved with this project despite its history. And we're excited to actually unveil our design tonight and hope that we can get the community to buy into where we're going with this. I wanted to start by doing a couple of thank yous here. So,
can you speak directly into the microphone so we can hear you?
yeah. I want to start with a couple of thank yous here. I wanted to thank the mayor, deputy mayor, Steve and Dylan. Thank you for putting up with all my phone calls early in the morning and late at night, on the weekends, whenever you need them. And I think one of the things that's important as part of my thank yous is for people to recognize how much effort goes into bringing a project along. We've been off the radar for the last 2 years, but I can promise you we've been working very diligently behind the scenes, understanding what the community's been looking for, putting a design together that really meets the requirements that's been set forth, understanding the failures of the past projects, and really trying to come up with something that we think really impacts the design of downtown waterfront, as well as showcases what is the crown jewel location of Troy. And I also want to stop and just thank Steve and Dylan once more for all the effort that you guys have put into this project, because it couldn't have been done without you. Where the team that's behind this, I want to introduce a couple of folks. So starting with Dave Hollander, who's sitting in the front row. With Dave is Tim Rulin, John Moore, Mike Walpole, and Jim Reeks. You guys have done a tremendous job in helping us through the pre-con process. I also wanted to introduce, thank GPI and Artisan. They're not here tonight, but they've been a great part of the team. John Higgins, Jim McGuire, Jim McKenzie, Kirk Benedetto, and I'm missing one, Dan Hampson. And then lastly, I wanted to thank Ken Syvertson Ragosu, who will introduce his team, and Andy Rimp of Chazen, that I'm sure you guys are familiar with all the projects that they have going on in Troy right now. So the other groups that are here that are on the board, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think it's important to highlight a few. Rare Form, thank you for donating the beer tonight. I will mention it's free because I was told to mention it. The Farmers Market in Hartcluit, thank you guys for all the media and the support that you've provided through the process. And lastly, I want to thank what I'm calling the Cardiac Kids at Lot J, who helped us put together this part of the media production that you'll see here tonight, and gave me a couple of heart attacks in the last 24 hours. But Marco, I really appreciate all the effort that you and your brother have put into this. A couple of housekeeping items. So as the mayor mentioned, we do want to have questions at the end, and thereafter we do want to have a cocktail hour where people are welcome to stay. There's food and free beer from Rare Form yet again, and we will stick around and have more of an intimate discussion with the design team if you don't feel compelled to ask it in front of the overall audience. And then the last thing is we have I want to call it a support document. So the goal here tonight is really to get the community to understand and see our vision and buy into the direction of where we're bringing Monument Square, right? That is, and full stop, that is really what we're looking to do here tonight. From there, the onus is on us, and when I say us, it's us, the city, the LDC, and the community, everybody to come together and recognize that there's a reason why there's been so many failures in the past, and we have to work together in order to fulfill the vision and the direction that we're going. And with that, if you like what you see here tonight, we do have a document that simply states that you're supportive of the vision and the direction that we're going with the design, and we can use that document to help source other public financing options, grants, state and federal, and it'd be great to have people sign that on their way out, again, if you're supportive of where we're going. So with that, I would like to pass the mic on here, and I will hand off to Ian Law, who you guys probably remember from the charrette process. Ian is a third party who has been involved with the design from early on, giving us a little bit of guidance along the way. And I think it's important for you guys to hear from Ian as somebody that has been embraced by the city, where the direction of our design is going and how we met the criteria that was put forth by the charrette process.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Ian Law. If for those of you who don't remember me, I had the distinct privilege of leading the design team on reimagining the One Monument project back in 2018-2019. The key piece of that process was a community design charrette that many of you may have participated in and I think helped guide the process of moving forward. Ultimately, the primary goal of that charrette process was to learn from all of you what were the critical things, what were the most important elements that you wanted for that redevelopment. That started with this blank canvas that maybe some of you have written on, where we got more than we bargained for, trust me, how much went on that canvas. But as the charrette process started to focus those ideas, we kind of took all those great examples and put them in the categories, common categories of live, work, and play. And through that, we asked you to sharpen that focus even further. And we asked you to pick your top 3 elements within these categories so that we could, again, start to shape this and have it manifest into a physical ideas. So in the live category, you wanted a place that you could get healthy food, somewhere downtown in this site that could offer that. You wanted a place for family activities. And lastly, you wanted more parking. Not surprisingly, right? In the work category, it was important with all those development options, you wanted it to be something that was mixed use. You wanted it to have ample civic space, and you again wanted a food market that could have potential opportunities for vendors. And lastly, in the play category, it was really important to have open space and opportunities for community gathering and direct waterfront engagement. So as we looked at all those things collectively, what did we really learn? We learned that we had to have a viable development that also struck a balance with really flexible civic space, a place that provided opportunities to bring the community together for a wide variety of activities, and that ultimately created a really strong connection between the downtown core and your waterfront. So about a year ago, Samit and his team reached out to me to see if I would provide some feedback on their initial designs. And that's not something that I would typically want to do, to comment on other people's work. But what really impressed me about this team was, right off the rip, was their commitment to truly understanding the feedback that you had given during that process so that they could figure out what those most critical pieces were and how they could be integrated into their designs to meet those critical requirements. In addition to what impressed me was how prepared they were. They had attended all of those charrette nights. They had reviewed all of the presentations. They had studied all of your online feedback, and they had researched all of the past attempts at this to see what they could do to have a differentiated approach. And so ultimately, I think what you're going to see tonight really reflects those core elements, which that's probably the thing I was most impressed with, was when I finally saw the designs, the effort that they took to really take those key elements, those things that were in those live, work, play categories, and specifically some of these ones that are on the screen. A prominent and really flexible public plaza, taking into consideration the view sheds, both into the site and from, into and out of the site. That was really important. Making sure it was fully accessible, that connection from downtown to Riverfront Park, to activate the park itself, to create both visual and physical connectivities from your downtown core all the way into the waterfront that collectively, again, could build a world-class destination. So, again, I hope that you're as impressed as I was when you see what the design team has come up with, and I'm really excited for you and your city, and look forward to seeing the new 1 Monument Square come to life. So with that, I'd like to have Ken and Andy come up and show it to you.
My name is Ken Cyrus, and I'm with Cyrus and Russo Architects, and part of our team for this project was Chris Mullins, who's been phenomenal at modeling the project for ever since the very beginning, the inception of the design, and Carl Kirkichin just in the last couple of weeks has really produced a whole bunch of the imagery that you're going to see here tonight.
Hello and good evening. My name is Andy Rimpf. I'm from the Chazen Companies, and we work together with Ken's team in focusing on the site and civil and landscape architectural elements of the project, and are really happy to be able to show you tonight our current project and its context with other initiatives in the city of Troy. So as we think tonight, we're here about a project which is 1 Monument Square Riverfront Park, so a certain destination within the city. What's important, and this image here shows you, is contextually, this is a piece of a string of pearls that the city has been working on and continues to work on to invest energy in a waterfront connectivity plan that really stretches from the north and Lansingburg all the way down. The image here cuts off at the Green Island Bridge, but even further than this image into South Troy. So what we're here tonight is to try to infuse and energize and supplement these initiatives the city has already invested in. As you can tell now versus a couple years ago, there's a different waterfront experience behind Restaurant Row, you know, at the marina. It's a significant investment of the FEMA money to rebuild portions of the seawall. All of these things are coming together. It's really exciting to be, you know, in the city of Troy, working on a lot of these initiatives and seeing how this connection through the economic and planning development and the planning boards really is trying to put all these pieces together into what I believe the mayor has said before. It is a wonderful 7-mile stretch of waterfront. I mean, what an opportunity. So within the context of the 1 Monument Square, this image shows Riverfront Park in its current form. Riverfront Park right now has the Memorial Park area and the park that everybody's used to experiencing now with the farmers markets and other daytime use, the geometric plaza, you know, design that was done through W Architecture years ago. This concept shows you what we're calling Riverfront Park 2.0 design, which is kind of in the center of the sheet here, connecting to 1 Monument Square, and to see how these couple of parts and pieces all fit together to make a real destination here for downtown Troy. This is the primary prominent park space, public space that people can relax and recreate and socially gather, have festivals and activities. So part of the riverfront design right now, conceptually, this is where we're at. The design process is still unfolding for Riverfront Park 2.0. The design here contemplates, one of the things that came out of the charrette process was, you know, should there be a destination playground? You know, create a real activity node at the downtown part of Troy. So you can see in the center a playground area for that. The most important component of Riverfront Park 2.0 is how do we blend Riverfront Park, which has its own value and its beauty today, its functionality, together with a proposal at 1 Monument Square, and how do we put those together in a harmonious design that allows opportunities for people of all ages, all abilities, and all interests to use and to be flexible in that design. So beginning, I'm going to turn it over to Ken to talk a little bit about the building components and the site components. But here, contextually, you can see what is roughly a 22,000 square foot building footprint with a public promenade space at the public deck level, which you'll see better illustrations of an equal 20,000 square feet, plus the remaining park space, which has been a real interesting challenge and a treat to actually design within that framework. But together, the public open space is over an acre. So it's more than double what the private residential and commercial development side is for a footprint. So we've had a lot of focus on that public-private space in that partnership. Oh, sorry.
So one of the items that we wanted to do when working with Andy and his team about developing the site is we wanted to maintain the facade plane along River Street. So it was very important for us to bring the building up to the street. And then we started working with some of the geometry of the existing site. So what we ended up doing was we took the shape of One Monument Square, we mirrored imaged it across River Street, mirror imaged it again, and put it on the site, and we saw, well, that's not really quite big enough for what we think that the community wants. So we made it bigger. And then we made it bigger again, so that we actually increased the width of the River Street facade of the plaza to 145 feet, which is pretty substantial. The original Broadway that actually went down into the Steamboat Landing was only 60 feet wide. So anyway, that's what dictated the general beginning of the shape of our building. Then we wanted to have the building, we actually put a little bit of an angle to it so that we could start to pick up some of the relationship to the old Steamboat Landing and the park to create a segue up to the building and to the plaza level. So you'll start to see how the building shape developed along with working with Andy and his team on the site design. So our inspiration for the building is, it's actually 7 buildings all into one building. What we didn't want to do is we didn't want to plop like one big edifice onto the site. We wanted to be sympathetic to the existing architecture of Troy. We wanted to draw some design cues from it. So early on in the design process, we came up with a term that we used. It was called evolution. What we wanted this project to do was to portray how Troy's architecture has evolved over the years. So starting on the south side of the site, we have an 1840s styled building. Now, we're not trying to replicate the architecture, but we're drawing cues from it. So what was indicative of that style? It's a little bit shorter building, 2 stories. It's usually where there's a lot of glass in the front to be inviting into the building, and the proprietor would live on the 2nd floor. You see a lot of double hung windows and 1/3, 2/3 proportions to the windows, and then decorative elements like large cornice, brackets, and window surrounds. So we've taken some design cues of the neighborhood, of the history of Troy, and we've established a corner for the building, and then we grew it from there. So we've evolved through time with our building. So building number 2 is 5 stories, and it still has a lot of the elements of an 1860s building. You start to see the technology evolve of the buildings, a little bit bigger window openings, switching to a little bit different lintels, some arches, and then a little bit more decoration at the top with a balustrade. Building number 3, the 3rd one in, is a factory building. So this is like an 1860s, 1880s factory style building. Just drawing cues from the buildings. You start to see bigger lintels, bigger window openings, bigger proportions of window to wall. We play with it around with the window head heights and to generate a feeling like this actually is a different building, and there's a sequence, there's a logic to what's going on here. And then we anchor the whole thing where that building displays with our building number 4, we call it the factory. So our factory is a 6-story building. You start to see that as like a 1900 style building. You see lots of glass. Now we're using steel lintels to support the brick because the technology is different. Every building is, the facade is brick, but we actually pick period appropriate brick for each building. So like building number 1 has a molded, hand molded brick look to it, like something that somebody would make in the 1840s, all the way up to the 1900s brick. That's an extruded brick that's coming through a factory. That's, it's showing the industrialization of Troy. So that's kind of the concept just on the facade of River Street and how it evolved over time, and that's part of the evolution of the project.
Thanks, Ken. Similarly, on the streetscape in the public realm section along River Street, in this image, it kind of starts showing you a level of interest from, if you think about the southern end of our site, it's still more historic looking streetscape, a ton of brick in the streetscape, a wider sidewalk depth. And then the further you go north, it starts becoming more your traditional kind of modern 8-10 foot wide concrete sidewalk in front of the Arts Center, for instance. And so part of the evolution of the streetscape follows with the evolution of the programming of the building and the design of the building. So out in front of the 2-story kind of restaurant space, there's opportunity to engage the outside, you know, have an exterior use complementary to the interior space. And as you move through, the materials and textures are consistent with what's in downtown, to kind of move you progressively north until you get to the plaza space. The plaza space is actually, it's 145 feet of frontage right at the back of the sidewalk along River Street. So that's almost a 50-yard football field. That's a really wide plenum there. And that's something that we really focused hard on, is trying to open this view up. Ken can talk a little bit about the building and its proximity and its arrangement to Broadway, you know, the corridor. But this open and inviting public space was really important to us. One of the elements that you can see with this view is, you know, River Street, we want to transform River Street. We're not totally redoing it, but we're transforming the streetscape there. So we've added a curb bump out section at the intersection that allows us to do traffic calming measures to really create a more of a destination node, make that public plaza space feel like it's pulling out into the streetscape and engaging the actual street, and across the street, the monument or the park on the other side of that. So here's a good example of that view really opening up and creating the feel and the reality that there's a wide open, inviting public space to the waterfront. And one other thing to mention within this zone, the public realm zone right along the transportation route is also where you have the great opportunities to promote the CDTA scooter share program, the CDTA bike share program, have an electrical vehicle charging station, you know, taking a little bit of the emphasis off of your traditional car transportation along the River Street corridor and providing additional alternative transportations. So on the park design, this is kind of your first image of the park design in 3-dimensional view. There's a bunch of keywords that we kind of kept bantering on. Just, you know, as designers, we do the same thing as everybody else does with the charrettes and such, right? And we come up with these different things that we're really wanting to focus on. You know, one was integration. You know, this site really wants to integrate downtown to the waterfront. So there's elements along here that I'll discuss that help with that integration moment. Activation, activating a space. Just having a route to connect you from point A to B is different than having a route that has experiences or moments along there that allows it to be more than just a transportation route. It actually can be activated, it can be engaged by various people. Connectivity, as we mentioned before in the larger context, right now, for the last decade plus, One Monument Square has basically been a terminus for most activity, right? Anything at the park kind of stops at the edge right now. What we are doing here is showing how the vision of Troy's waterfront can continue and pull people through the One Monument space. And even though it's not rendered further south in this view, it connects people from the south and from the north. So that connectivity and that connection of people, both from downtown to the river and then all along the river, is really important to us. And then the last thing is really about progression. It's progressing the challenge that I won't numb everybody's minds with on the utilities and the grading and all that. The interesting challenge is you're 18 feet from the river level to the plaza level. And so with that, there comes a significant challenge. How do you do that in a meaningful way? How do you do that in a way that's just easy to translate for people? How can you do it where it's fully accessible? The design here starts playing on that. And then Ken, I'm going to let you.
So when we left off previously, we were at building number 5. So here we get to building number 6, which is our wharf building. And we're kind of taking a little bit of a step back in time, because our wharf building is very indicative of a lot of the buildings that we actually see along River Street. And what we've done is we've designed the first floor to have a nice stone foundation to it that goes up to the second floor level. So on the lower level, you see a lot of stone. You know, this thing has been here for 100 years. And then we go to actually a hand-hewn yellowish brick. And then over the years, maybe 20 years ago, somebody put an addition on the back of it. So this building has a story, right? Or an addition on the top of it. It's like, hey, where'd that come from? So somebody put a penthouse addition on it over the years. And then when we transition over to Building 6 is kind of an interesting building. It's that large white beacon. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of showcase that, hey, you have arrived. If I'm on the water, it's like, where's One Monument Square again? Boom, it's like, there it is. You know, it's kind of reminiscent of a lighthouse that you would see on the Hudson River. So we've designed that as a beacon element to notify people that are not only transversing on the water or on the promenade, but also that are using the river. Okay, now I know where I'm going. And then this is Troy today. So the back of the building has a modern architecture. It's a blend of modern building materials, but also utilizing some of the historic building materials that we use on the front of the building. So we've integrated the design of the building. There's a penthouse level, rooftop terrace, and we have a complementary element to our beacon on the southwest corner, try to just tie everything together and help anchor the building on the site. So that's how the building transitions from really one building to give you the appearance of 7 buildings, and every building has a story. And then as Andy mentioned, you know, he's integrating and activating all of the landscape spaces. We're doing the same exact thing on the first floor level. So the first floor level is retail, market, restaurant, those types of spaces. And what we're designing right now is large expanses of glass doors that could be opened up so that you can spill out from the first floor onto the plaza level. So you activate that entire plaza level. So you have 22,000 square feet of footprint, and then you have another 20,000 square feet of plaza that all can become one giant space for activation and utilization.
And to follow up on this plaza level, there's a couple of key components that I want to kind of walk everybody through. One is, as I mentioned, it's about a half-acre size upper level plaza. It's intentionally has essentially a zero edge. You'll see that in a lot of renderings coming up. But essentially, there is no hard edge at the end of the plaza as it approaches down to the river. There is an intentional connection between the two so that there is multiple ways to connect the people from the plaza to the public space. So we aren't designing a plaza and then a public park. We're designing them together as one element. As you can see by the switchback kind of ramp section, that's the accessible route. Ken mentioned the grand staircase that kind of opens up. That's your prominent visual and connective link for access. But whether or not you're coming from the south and coming to the One Monument location, there's multiple avenues and ways you can approach and engage, you know, the park in the upper plaza area, and then vice versa as you're coming from the north. So the plaza space itself, we spent a lot of time thinking about how do you design a 20,000 square foot plaza, because the question we always ask ourselves early is, what do we want the space to be? The answer that we came up with is we want the space to be flexible. We want it to have a series of outdoor room capacities. So there's flexible furniture built in there. All the furniture you see kind of just placed within the plaza area. It's all meant to be flexible, relocatable furniture. Because some days on a great night like tonight, you know, maybe it's just a public space to walk, you know, with a family member or with a friend and just have a casual conversation. Maybe there's a festival tomorrow, you know, maybe that's a whole different use. So that flexibility of space was really kind of key. So you can see also in this design just some fun movements and motion throughout the park. You know, we have a park space that can get very hot, as we know, even though we're in a northern climate, we can get hot. So we have shade tree opportunities. We have a seating area where swing benches, I was talking with Ian earlier, you know, we have a common experience of something as simple as a swing bench on the water is enormously successful, you know, no matter what it looks like, even frankly. But we have a nice industrial looking symbol there. The elements of the steps in the middle, these are large granite blocks. So instead of having just a stair, there's a different way to play. There's a different way to move yourself, different way to seat. You can use it as amphitheater. There's a different moment along there. You see the idea of a kiosk. You know, that's a way to engage and activate the plaza through a vendor space. using that. And all this is boiled into what was an initial goal is how do I get down from there to here, right? That's always been the age-old solution. Right now, we have an 18-foot drop. This is a progression of that design.
So here you see a whole bunch of different examples of just how you activate the space. Here we have a little bit of a cafe, the Esplanade. You can just see that this could be in a hugely vibrant space, just based on what you want to use it for. It has the opportunity for endless opportunities. And here again, we have a couple of other different views. Here you get to see the park, how the entire, like the playground park that Andy mentioned in 2.0 is fully activated or integrated with our potential design. And you see the monumental stair kind of centered on the wharf building, so you kind of know how to get there from there if you want to. And then at night, what a better way, a lot of communities nowadays are doing night movies, and if you hurry out up there, you can catch Jaws 19 on the big screen.
And I think just to close our portion of this is an example of a lot of the intel, and I thank Dylan for always pushing the envelope, and thinking of how can we use the park, how can we engage people of various, interests. And this is a good example of a way you can engage a group of people. This is a concept, this is just an idea, but it really shows you the importance of this public space and all the different things that it could potentially offer us. Nice to meet.
So I want to touch a little bit about the retail programming for this, and I'll start by saying that so far we've been curating these opportunities for the last year and a half. Right now we have no commitments across the board, but we are looking forward to bringing all of these parties to the table as soon as we know we're moving forward with the project. The first thing we did when we really started thinking about the retail programming is understanding Troy, what makes Troy so unique and energetic, and what the entrepreneurs of Troy have done to create the booming downtown that you guys see tonight. And we wanted to really focus on the most important critical aspect of downtown Troy and what makes it so vibrant, which is the farmers market. Steve Riddler and his predecessors have done a phenomenal job at creating one of the Northeast's largest farmers market. And how great would it be to have the bookend of the farmers market eventually be at this location where you can just envision where the plaza space and ultimately the vendors start flowing out onto the plaza space and being able to use all of the activation points that Andy mentioned throughout the open space. The idea here, and I am putting a few words into Steve's mouth because this is, I think, a little bit more my concept interjected with his, and the idea here is really about an incubation food market. So taking some of these farmers that have never had a brick and mortar location, giving them an opportunity to have a full-time shop for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And if they're successful and they learn how to run a brick and mortar location, they can go off, they have a platform from which to do so and incubate their next retail business and launch their own brick and mortar, ideally here in downtown Troy. So that's something that we're very excited for if that can come to fruition. I'm going to jump over to the left-hand side, so the blue box and then also the picture of the top left. In all due respects to some of the waterfront restaurants here in Troy, I think the capital region as a whole lacks great, vibrant, outdoor, indoor, eateries. So the concept here is really about the food, bar, even a brewery concept, where you have outdoor wraparound plaza space, you have access to the indoor outdoors, you almost get the feel with the big open garage door style windows that you're sitting there elevated over the Hudson River, you're looking at the kids on the playground, you're looking at the bikers coming down the walkway, the bikers riding down the walkways, and you really just have a great ambiance that really creates a presence for downtown Troy and really, in my opinion, will bring a lot of people here from all over the capital region. On the top right, this is just a stock image, but the concept is something that we've been working on for, again, a year and a half. It's a consortium that's been put together between RPI, Siemens, the global engineering company, the City of Troy, the LDC, and the Future of Small Cities. There are a few other groups that are part of this, but right now those are the commitments towards this initiative. And really it's a living lab, and the idea is around building technology. It's a showcase location to not only talk and learn, but also have R&D and eventually get into workforce development about how the data attributes that are coming from this building over the course of the construction as well as throughout the process are actually driving decisions that can be analyzed and eventually taught to the next generation of workforce about how building energy, building evolution, building technology is evolving. And I think we have a great consortium that's come together to really help push that envelope. That all said, I will say that we're building it in such a way that it is a unique space that will be, in our opinion, will be highly sought after. So all of these opportunities are, they're available, and we're working towards getting those committed over the next few months. And with that, I'd like to introduce Steve Streichman.
All right, good evening. This is such a great turnout. It's really exciting to see. So Monument Square, going back 10 years ago, has always been about a public-private partnership. It's always been, whether it's the original Department of State grant or even now with the city agreement with Hoboken Brownstone, this is about a public-private partnership. So Hoboken Brownstone, obviously the private component is investing over $40 million in their part of the building, the vertical piece going up. And it's up to the city now. We've demanded all these things that we really need to have through the charrette process, this connection to the river, the public space, the grand staircase down. Those are really city investments, and that comes to us to help fund these things. If you look at the pie chart on this sheet, you can see the one on the left shows the open space and plaza. That's 2/3 of the site, and the building is 1/3 of the site. Yet when you look at the costs, it's flipped. So we basically said to Hoboken, we want you to develop here, but you can't use most of the site. So that's why it's imperative that the city comes to the plate here now and invests to create this destination that we deserve and to make use of the riverfront. What you have on the left is really the first draft of financing. We have a long ways to go on this, but this is the public component. And you can see the first 3 lines, the public space, the garage, and the utilities, that adds up to $18.5 million. And then if you add in Riverfront Park 2.0, and that's something that the city's always needed to do since we built the amphitheater and we built the splash pad, that was 1.0. We still need to fix the parking lot, get rid of or reconfigure the parking lot, reconfigure the pavers. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Make the connection to the stairway that comes down from north of the Arts Center. So that is something that's always had to happen, and that brings the total revitalization cost to $24 million for the public component. We have $3.5 million worth of grants. This is going below capital sources. And we have about $6 million worth of grant applications in process right now. So this is going with the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, which we're going to get this year, and other sources, yeah. And I will just add in on that DRI, we have projects ready to go this year, from Taylor to Monument Square to First Columbia and numerous other projects along the way. And this is the year we will get funded. There has, and I just want to, so that's a total gap right now, I'm sorry, that's a total of $9.3 million of grants in hand or that we anticipate. And so for current gap financing of $14.7 million, and there's never really been a better time to apply for funding. There's stimulus money, there's the transportation bill, there's federal parks money out there, there's the DRI, and we really feel we can get this additional $6 million. So the bottom 2 lines are what the gaps are going to be, and I just kind of like to break them out separately. The bottomest line there is including the public space and Riverfront Park, so that's $8.7 million. And when you subtract out the $3.5 million for the park less the grant, it's about a $5 million gap for Monument Square. And we feel very comfortable that we have other project revenues, parking revenues, a pilot or lease back payments that we can, these are revenues that will be associated with the project over the length of the project that can further buy down that amount. And we'll also be looking for additional grants. The actual capital stack for this project will be put together over the next 6 months as we apply for the grants. Again, this is just kind of a back of the napkin estimate here, based on good numbers of what we anticipate everything to cost. And I should just add in, I didn't mention, with the Riverfront Park redevelopment, so you've seen some concepts up here. We still have to go back out to the public, which is something we'll be doing in early 2022. And we have been in major discussions with the Korean War vets about relocating the Korean War monument up next to the Vietnam War Memorial. We have a concept for that, and you'll see that, you can see that later. But so they're on board with that, and we'd like to try and get that moving early next year, as well as the infrastructure work that we're ready to get going on to make this site developable, which should occur. We're out to bid right now on some of the projects, or some of the materials and construction work. So that should be underway before the end of this year. Did I miss anything? Yes. This site's been a drag on Troy's economy for 10 years. There's a lot of costs involved with us having this vacant lot. We've got to maintain it, we've got insurance costs, liability costs, and it's been a drag on the rest of the area and all of the city of Troy. So we need to make this investment now. You'll see this investment here have a cascading effect on the vacant buildings to the south. Hopefully we'll get to see the Cannon building restored to its former grandeur as well. There's a lot of benefits, not just for the Monument Square, not just for this area of downtown, but really for all of the city of Troy. So with that said, I'm gonna hand the microphone over to Dylan Turek, my Director of Economic Development, and he's gonna talk a little bit more about public benefits.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, everybody. Steve and I played rock, paper, scissors, shoot before we did this to see who would have to talk about finance versus the benefits, so I obviously won that. So this is the easy part, right? This is all about the good things that come from One Monument Square. The night that we left the charrette, we were tasked with two basic goals, and that was to create a generational public space and riverfront development project that would elevate Troy to being the riverfront capital of the entire district, essentially. And the other being to find a developer and a design team crazy enough to actually get it done. And we are very fortunate, and I want to say this, Samit, Dan, George, and the entire design team have been incredible to work with. And it really takes somebody from a place like Hoboken who's essentially done this before to be able to do it in a place like Troy. It's not easy to do riverfront redevelopment. It's not easy to do it in a way that's affordable, quite frankly, and it can actually make the numbers work out. And that's been a lot of the trick, and I know that everyone's kind of looked at this project over the years thinking, oh, there's no way it's ever going to get done. But we picked the right people, and we've got the right input from the public to actually make this happen, so it's a testament to all that work. So that said, the project we're presenting to you guys tonight is definitely going to set Troy apart in numerous ways. More importantly, it's also going to generate the kind of economic and quality of life benefits that will, both on the site and beyond the site, that will make sure that the return on the investment is really worthy of the investment itself. And I think that's really been the sticking point for a long time. How do you create the uses and the spaces that are actually going to generate the kind of revenue economically that are going to benefit the city on a wider scale? And so what you're looking at here are two case studies, and I'll just add here that HRNA, a great economic development consulting firm from the New York City, is actually going to be running an economic benefits analysis on the project once we have the final design. That will obviously be something that everyone can look at and take a look at the actual analysis itself. But in the meantime, what we have here are, based on our research, two riverfronts. We're obviously not Pittsburgh or Chicago, but it's two riverfronts that demonstrate some of the more common benefits that come along with riverfront redevelopment. Some of the obvious sort of benefits that we can expect to see would be increased tourism and commerce, attracting new residents, new employers, new businesses that are looking to benefit or to bet on Troy's resurgence and its bright future. Significant growth in our tax base, and what this will enable us to do is to invest more into our neighborhoods. So it's not just felt in the downtown area, it's actually going to be felt throughout the entire city. And also increased quality of life, and that's for everybody, both Trojans that have been here for a long time and those that are coming into our city for the first time. So the slide, Chicago specifically highlights the positive impact felt on the businesses in the downtown area. So that's felt by more or less 10 to 15 retailers slash commerce, retail locations that are around the Riverwalk where they installed. It cost them about $100 million in a debt to get that done. The impact that that's had is basically $950,000 that goes down to paying down debt service. And that's just an additional revenue created for those businesses that are in that area. You're also looking at with Pittsburgh, that's a case study that really shows what happens to property values. And sometimes that's felt 2 to 5 miles away from where you're actually doing the development. So we're talking about like major increases. And this is all from investing in high quality public infrastructure around the area. So obviously, as I said before, we're not Pittsburgh, we're not Chicago necessarily. Now I'm putting this slide up here, not as a slide or any sort of misgiving about anything that anybody else in the region, any of our friends are doing across the river or anywhere else, but it's really more to highlight the point that we're really lucky here in Troy. In Albany and in other places as well, they've had to invest significant amount of capital just to get to the riverfront. They're even going to redo an overpass, tens of millions of dollars to redo an overpass to be able to get to it, to access it from their downtown. Schenectady dug a whole new harbor in the middle of their riverfront. We don't have to do that. Like if you look outside the window right here, you can see it sprawls. It's the riverfront. We have 7+ miles of untapped opportunity here in the city of Troy. It's remarkable. If anything, we are the riverfront city here in the Capital District. That's our thing. We have the riverfront, 7+ miles of it. So I think it's time that we took the opportunity to really realize our potential. This is the riverfront city. This is just the beginning. There's a lot of plans in place right now to do more on the riverfront. We're really looking forward to being able to do that with you guys. So thanks. With that, I'm going to give it off to Monica Kuziewski, the Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Look, I get to show you the really cool one, if I can get it right. Look at that. Oh, it's so pretty. Look, Nadine, can you see your dance field? So I will have to say, and shout out to Nadine from the Troy Dance Factory. I'm a proud parent, but what we did see, and this is just a little side gig before I get into my 2-page speech, but what we did see these last 18 months of COVID, whatever you want to call it, is how people have taken outdoor spaces and revitalized them, reused them, reinvigorated them so that they could accomplish their own personal goals. And we saw that and the inclusivity of it and the different uses and salsa in the park to dance in the park to, it's just been amazing. And that's every green space across the city. So thank you to the community for all of that. That being said, our responsibility, the city, and all of you, is to lay out the future of this city. Yes, this site has been through several iterations, of which we all have been here for, that have proven unbuildable, and perhaps, dare I say, some unbelievable until now. This project is believable, and I'll tell you why. You helped shape it. We opened up the opportunity for you all to lend your voice and your vision to create this site and to create the conversation. We are also not putting the sole responsibility for our future on a developer. It's a partnership between the city and Hoboken that started with the public and the community. This design is stunning. It's an A+. You all remember me calling the seawall an A+, right? We're building to A+, this is A+. And it's what we should be building. This is designed for the people who live in our city now, Kathleen, and it's also beautiful for our generations to come. It is beautiful, it is inclusive, it is accessible, it is connecting, and it is welcoming. It's an investment to our people, our city, the waterfront, and our future. Oh, there is a cost. You saw that. Just as there is a cost for the seawall, the marina, the Riverfront Park North, 7th Avenue Park, and of course the next project, the Knickerbocker Pool, Jim Gully. The quality you are demanding and what we're presenting is expensive, but it's all worthwhile. We shouldn't settle for anything less. I will promise you we will work diligently to bring those costs down through grants and other sources of funding. We do have some number crunching to do and some grant writing. You ready for that? No doubt about it. But we will do the work. But we have to start with a vision. You've seen the vision, and now we'll work to make it a reality. This city, as all of you know, continues to inspire all of us on a daily basis. Yes, we have our community challenges and our differing opinions, but that's part of our character and our charm, and that's what makes us us. Shh, that was a sentimental thing. But I do want to say, we don't have to replicate, and we hear this a lot of times, what they're doing over there and what they're doing over there, and no matter what it's about, whether it's buildings or operations or money or whatever, we don't have to replicate what other cities are doing. We've never done that, and we do it awesome. We are amazing at that. So we need to make sure that we continue working for Troy's future and not something that sounds good right at this moment, solves a short-term issue for one group, or checks a box. There's a wise man that I started working for in 1997 that had a vision for this city and waterfront 30 years ago, who once told me that you have to have good projects and infrastructure, but what will sell this city is fun and romance. Well, here you have fun and romance. And introducing a video. Soon.
Stand by.
I encourage each of us to reflect on what we have achieved and how we can do even more by working together to build a brighter future for our city. We are Troy, New York, and we are in this together.
The city's entire western border is shaped by 7 miles of Hudson River waterfront. The downtown seawall is the defining feature of our waterfront. It's our past and our future and connects us to this river.
tell you, Mayor Lou's here. This is my 4th time. It's gotta go this time. But just to give these guys, everybody at this table credit, and the team, this is the amount of financial investment, the amount of time, amount of research. I mean, they were talking to Kathy Sheehan. I mean, the amount, we have not seen this quality yet. They listened to you, they did their homework, and they put it out of the park, right? So I think that this is, it's a testament to the quality pick and the response and our commitment to the community that we're going to try to deliver what you just saw. You all deserve it, we all deserve it, and Hoboken deserves it just for the time and energy. So thank you both to Samit and George and Dan. If George isn't here tonight, but he's obviously here in spirit as well. So we're ready to build it. Are you? All right, so we're going to open it up to some questions now or comments. We do have another microphone. Dorinda, I think, is going to...
No, we only have one microphone.
Oh, we only have one microphone.
Everybody stand up.
Okay, so you're going to be like school. And then I'll go out and call out questions. And if it ends up being a developer question or a city question, then the crew here will take some answers. So why don't we start in the back? Go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody too. Be really loud and project.
Okay, I'm good at projecting. I'm Jack, the guy. I've also been here all 4 times.
Yes, you have.
And there's a lot that I like about this. It's better than the others, which is great. And I still have one objection, which is that we are being short-sighted in allowing the old City Hall site to dictate this site, that it sticks out so far towards the river. We have an opportunity, it may be too late now, but we had an opportunity to continue the wall of the Art Center down to the dance factory as the back wall of all the buildings. This building that's proposed, as well as the old City Hall site, both extend much farther towards the river and basically close off the possibility of parkland running way down the river. And that's my objection, is that why are we doing that? When we could have a narrower building. Is it money? Is it that we need to offer this much space in order to make it financially feasible? If it is, I'd just like to hear that. But it's an issue that I feel like we're a bit short-sighted on, allowing the park to be circumscribed at that point. That's my comment.
So if you can see here, there is a 50-foot esplanade that's along the riverfront. So in terms of having the space for running and walking, that will continue to be there. Also, we really took our cues from the community, and that really dictated that we have this big open vestibule area that comes through and creates that connectivity and integration that the community is looking for. You know, one of the things that that hurts me when I come and I see the farmers market when it's on Front Street is when I see people coming, buying their stuff from the farmers market, and then getting in their cars and going. Right? We need to do more to help convince people to come to the downtown areas and promote the small businesses of Troy. So by creating the building in the direction that we did, not only did we shrink the building a couple of times in order to create a vast open plaza space, which was what the community was asking for, we created an opportunity to really allow not only people from Business District to come down to all the great venues that the bid puts on at Riverfront Park, but also for people from Riverfront Park that are coming from out of town to come and go explore the downtown of Troy and the Business District that's there. Does that help to answer your question? Kind of.
There's also keep in mind too that next to the McCarthy building, right? That's not the McCarthy building. Sam's building, just to the south of the site. That is also, there's a pretty significant sewer and water system in there. that has to kind of tie in there. It's going to add millions of more dollars to the site as well too. So keeping that in mind, the ability to be able to build over top of that is also limited as well. Mark.
First of all, I want to say to me, I think it's beautiful. Where's the ugly parking lot? It's missing. You didn't put any parking.
It's there, it's hidden, nobody wants to see it.
No, wait, in that last one. The entrance is right in here. Can't see it. Anybody else? Yes, Miss Nadine.
That was definitely one of my questions with regards to my customers for the studio. But my next question is pertaining to stormwater management and drainage infrastructure considerations. I understand that there's a challenge with regard to the height of the water level where you're located. But I am curious what considerations have been taken for potentially green roofs. I know there's fire retention area currently in the park, maintaining or keeping that up, since we are giving ourselves an opportunity to address that.
Sure, hopefully I can answer at least part of your question. So, as I said before, there's some utility challenges, some significant ones. So one of the core things that we're doing from the River Street level, right now River Street, everything goes into the combined sewer overflow right now. All your storm drainage on the River Street level up above. So we've been working with Chris Whalen and his office at the city on trying to find ways that we can disconnect that drainage system up at the River Street level. So we devised the plan, and it's incorporated into our plan now, to separate the storm sewer up at the River Street level from the sanitary sewer, bring it back down through the site, essentially through where the existing stairs are now that go down on the angle, essentially through that corridor to do a sewer separation. Together with that, we have, as you mentioned, the bioretention, the philosophies of bioretention and various planters and green infrastructure. We're contemplating the use of permeable pavers or porous pavements, wherever it's possible or wherever it works the best. Underneath all the green that you see and all the pretty things is a ton of utility systems, vaults, splitters, you name it. So we're doing our very best to try to keep everything as green as possible. Employ systems on the roof to reduce runoff rates, things of that nature. So green infrastructure is a piece of it. Trying to be sustainable with tree canopies, tree shading, those type of things. Looking at high solar reflex index pavements, servicing things of that nature to help in that regard.
Part of this, and I am going to say this, part of this project also includes looking at geothermal for this site as well as some other sites throughout downtown Troy. That's part of the partnership we have with Siemens and a recent grant that we are awarded for the study as well too. Next, sir in the back with the umbrella.
I have two questions.
Sure.
One, I saw an earlier version where they had the wonderful vistas on Broadway, those places right through the site. Was there a reason why that was eliminated? And then the second question is any of the housing, the apartment units, are they affordable housing or is it all luxury apartments?
So the original concept you're talking about was from when the original concepts design were done probably 10, 12 years ago. And the idea was thought to carry Broadway through the site and split the site. What we've talked about earlier still applies. The community feedback during the charrette was the open park plaza, the ability to be able to use the community space. But also part of the challenge is that utility infrastructure that's just on the south end of that space, that is where the current stairs are, where the old stairs are from the city hall. All underneath that is significant sewer and water infrastructure. So that limits your ability to split the buildings. And that was something that they discovered afterwards. And as far as these will be market rate. Anybody else? Question? Yes? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hi. Stand up because
sure.
I'm standing actually. Sorry to tell you. Anyway, I'm just quite that are lovely. I was really struck as we went down the riverfront with all of the concrete. It bothers me that there isn't more green space to absorb the floods when they are going to happen, because they've been happening. So where is it all going to go if you've got all this concrete? That's the thing that concerns me, and I like that you're talking about geothermal. Very much.
So I think that this new design 2.0 of Riverfront Park actually has more green space than the current design is, and the current 1.0 is actually designed to be able to take floodwaters and then be able to recede, and that will be the same thing for this as well. That's why you see the different elevations and the step-ups will allow for the floodwaters to come in and then be able to go back out. You know, it is a challenge, but you know, it's a big space as far as sidewalks go, and being able to make sure that there's people that are able to pass and spaces. I mean, look at the way we have now, but I mean, you know, when we do Full Out Fest or farmers market and stuff like that, the vendors actually set up on that space, and that allows more people to be able to use the green space during those kinds of events as well. But no, point taken. We'll make sure to note that. Jamel, hi.
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 What are some of your ideas for the community space and partnerships or individuals that you're looking into yet?
Have I said no yet? No, so I think that, you know, the beauty of the community space, and I have to tell you, I was telling these guys, one of the biggest things I love is these little garden things that you can see earlier. Those are like on casters, so you actually can create circular areas. I was thinking like Ellen Sinopoli, or maybe a DJ is in one of those circles, and maybe it's a dance thing, or maybe it's a performance space. And I think that the beauty is that there's so many, and I think actually Ken and Andy talked about it, is there's different areas, so you can actually do different things in other spaces and still have a lot of open space. So whether it's, you know, a big event like we've been talking about, where we do some sort of a gathering, maybe it's Nadine continues her festival, if it's the farmers market, whatever it might be, we're open. And it could be something small, it could be something big, and I think that's the beauty of the flexibility of it and the vastness of the whole park now. You have the whole park rather than just a parking lot area. Sure.
Hey, Jamel. So one of the things I think you'll be happy to hear about, if you look at that little kiosk-looking thing that's over there as well, what that really is it's a bit of an incubator. And it's a program we're looking at. I don't know if you've been to Boston recently or some other places, but they set up these pop-up sort of retail locations. And what you can do is you can essentially get them for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, 6 weeks during seasonal time. And it's an opportunity to basically test your product or test your business in a place. We're talking right now with both potentially the bid, and I believe the new executive director is with us as well, Jeff. And we'll be reaching out to him very soon about that, as well as the chamber. And then some entrepreneurs about, hey, look, how do we create a program that's going to get people into these pop-up spaces? And then from there, launch them into essentially like Lansingburg, other places as well throughout the city where they're going to have a more permanent presence. And it would come with maybe some funding opportunities and also an opportunity for training as well. So there's that. And then, I'm sorry. Does that help answer the question?
Jamel, you can always send us suggestions too. If you, I'm sure you have ideas, so you can certainly send them. How about Jesse?
Absolutely phenomenal project. Thank you guys for following my heart. This has been a project in the area of Troy that has been so desperately needing to connect. This is an area that not only change and utilize our city. I'll say thank you for that. It's been a revolution that's going to walk through our city, use it, use the car, everything. Amazing. I did have one question. Any thought on condo project?
Any thought on a condo project? And yes, that is rain.
So we looked into condos early on just because of the complexity and the costs associated with this project. But ultimately where Troy's obviously going through a great renaissance. And I think the condo market is some time down the road from here. On top of that, deploying 90 condo units roughly today is difficult. It's a very difficult ask. It's something that's not even being done in Saratoga at this time. And if you think about Troy's demographic, it's a very youthful, young family. It's a large portion of the population that occupies today's Troy. And that market is really looking towards moving from an apartment, going to a single-family residential home. And single-family residential homes in Troy right now are very affordable. So the demographic that we think can command or is looking for the condo market is the baby boomers, or otherwise it's the baby boomer generation, which is not the market that we see here today. I think it's a 5 to 10 year window before we would love to be part of a condo project in this market.
Council President.
I'll be super brief. Kudos to Sami, to your team. As someone who has worked with waterfront communities statewide for over a dozen years, this honestly just brings so much joy in my hometown, in my backyard. It creates accessibility, it creates a connection. It's that pearl in that necklace, 7.5 mile stretch, ADA accessibility, public-private partnership. I love the RPI, Siemens, potential with the data. It really pieces it all together. I just want to compliment Sami, your team. I am super psyched about this, so kudos and let's get rolling.
All right, we'll do Deanna, and then we'll do the gentleman in the back, and then we'll do Emily. There's your cue.
Hi, my name is Deanna Delpas. I'm with an AI platform, and this is actually my backyard. I live right on the riverfront, so I'm always talking about the river and why we need to activate the river. But what we haven't really talked about is we're all talking about the open space, and that's beautiful and stunning. But we live in an upstate New York community with a lot of bad weather. So the fact that you've done a lot to activate buildings, indoor, outdoor spaces, and public spaces within the buildings themselves, I work with a lot of developers, and we've even looked at a lot of RFPs over time, and they've all been about huge, enormous buildings that maximize square footage, get the most amount of money out of the space that we can, and you really listen to us. We see how many developers would put a 2-story building just because it looks better, and not utilize the square footage of a 5-story building. I mean, that's phenomenal, and I think that's fantastic. It really pulls in history, it pulls in modern. I mean, it just, kudos to everybody.
125 parking spaces.
Okay, I need one.
Sir, get on the wait list. Green Island lot has some available.
I wondered if any thought has been given to more art, particularly call more attention to the history of the place. I think it was mentioned that was a steamboat landing at some point, so just signifiers of the industrial past. I know the facades kind of address that, it's something in the park area that might.
Yeah, the public art is something that we've been working on with the Art Center, obviously with the Uniting Line, but then actually looking to try to do some art installations. We're actually working with the library on doing storyboards in the park right now too. So trying to do different activations, whether it's art or it's, those kinds of things. So that will be, yes, definitely down the park, down the path.
And as part of our DRI application to the state, we were working with the Art Center, so they're looking at doing an arts project along the Riverwalk, so that will include this site as well.
Emily.
Emily Mann, DHR Properties. Because this is also going to have a lot of people coming in and moving out, and businesses that require deliveries, talk to us about loading dock and the connection with the industrial road, so that flow doesn't block River Street and block the access for residents and other businesses.
So I don't think we have a great picture here that shows the back side of the building. Oh, actually we do right here. So if you look here, what's actually not rendered in this picture is going to be a service elevator, right? So there will be the ability for a service elevator to go up to this floor, to this walkway. So not only to cater to all the retailers on the ground floor, but also to cater for ADA accessibility. So it has been something we've thought about just because it's an important consideration for any bar, restaurant, or any retailer.
Any other questions? So it's raining out, so you might as well have some more food and another cocktail. We can get Uber. And then I think what we'll do is we'll kind of break up. If you have any more questions individually for the team itself, feel free to stay. We have the renderings over here on the wall. Apparently Steve has, yeah, and then if you do obviously support, because you all love it, there's a little bit of a sign-up sheet for a support component that we'd love to be able to submit with all of our grant applications and that kind of stuff. And then certainly stay in tune. We'll have the information on the website. We'll put updates there. The video link will actually be on the website as well if you want to preview that again. And thank you on behalf of the mayor, the team, all of us, and the crew that have been working their butts off for 2 years doing this project. We thank you and hope you have a great night.